The thing that's so insufferable about Boomer Maher is that he's so out of touch, but he thinks that he's so with it. Like, he thinks he understands what's happening in the world, but it's clear that he doesn't actually read the news. It's clear he doesn't listen to anything outside of other rich people in right-wing media. That's why his guests are always like the CNN, Fox News, MS Now green room. And what I really need people to understand about Boomer Maher, despite the fact that he has this reputation for being a liberal, is that he is a radical Zionist, okay? He is a deranged, demented, right-wing radical Zionist. And by right-wing, I mean he is a fucking neocon. He is such a neocon. He is such a warmonger that he was making Alyssa CIA spook Slotkin look moderate. Alyssa, I love Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush, and I was in the CIA, and I've never met a war that I didn't love, and we love the deep state Slotkin. You have to be so radical to make Alyssa Slotkin look reasonable, but that is what the fuck happened on Boomer Maher the other night. She was literally not even against the Iran war. She was just saying the same thing that all the liberals that support it are saying, where they go, oh, but, you know, we need to just have like an objective. I don't like that there's not an objective, or there's not like an exit ramp or a plan. He was getting butthurt about that. He's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And then he had Stephen A. Smith to be backup for him, to be like, yeah, you know, people say that they don't like the Iran war and like they don't like what President Trump is doing, but they always had a problem with Iran before. And it's like, don't even get me started on Stephen A. Smith, okay? Because this video isn't really about him, but he happened to be on the panel. And this video would end up being way too long if I went through every single professionally wrong thing Stephen A. Smith said. Because Stephen A. Smith is another one of those rich people that's wrong all the time, but he always confidently speaks as though he knows what the fuck he's talking about when he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But back to Boomer Maher. He literally sat on his interview with her and was acting like he was brave for being a warmonger. Boo, I know that you are incredibly out of touch. I know that you live in an ivory tower where you hang out with right-wingers and you think you're edgy because you brag about being a pothead, something that I haven't heard anybody brag about besides you since like middle school. But actually, you're not based for the fact that you're being a warmonger. That's actually a very, very standard rich person position. But then again, this is the same guy that will have Barry fucking White and Bret Stephens on his show and call them intellectuals. I fear we're not living in reality. But let's get to the AIPAC part, and the part where it can never be understated what a racist, Islamophobic bigot Boomer Maher is. That is not talked about nearly enough. And the reason why it's not talked about nearly enough is because his racism and his bigotry is primarily targeted at Arabs and Muslims. That is a very acceptable form of bigotry and racism in our society. It fucking shouldn't be, but unfortunately it still is. And so people still treat him like he's some serious moral liberal with some moral authority on some of these issues, and ignore the fact that he is openly racist and openly bigoted and openly Islamophobic. This kind of acceptance of anti-Arab racism is the reason why Alyssa Slotkin can sit there and fucking have the nerve to condemn Hassan Piker and Abdul al-Sayed and claim that because they oppose the Gaza genocide that they're anti-Semitic, but then she has no problem sitting on his panel as he spews anti-Arab and Islamophobic bile and nod her head along. Like, really, Slotkin? You're really gonna sit there and lecture Abdul al-Sayed about racism and anti-Semitism as you nod along and sit next to this open fucking Islamophobic bigot? Be fucking serious, lady. But let's get to the amazingly cringe clip. Here's him actually saying that it's anti-Semitic and anti-Jewish to not take bribes from AIPAC.
What do you make of more Democrats distancing themselves from AIPAC, that is the Israeli lobby? I think everyone who's running for president, none of them say they are, but all the ones who are, including the two Jewish ones, have distanced. That's where Jews are with the Democratic Party these days. Has it become toxic to support Israel? I think it has. for the Democrats.
I think it has. The question is it right?
It's not.
I don't think it is.
No, it isn't.
I don't think it is. And I think that what you're having right now is a lot of people, when we saw what we saw on college campuses, what have you, and a lot of people, engaging in anti-Semitism, let's just call it what it is. That
shut
definitely becomes
up.
incredibly alarming.
Much bigger issue than that. I think when you're a Democrat and you don't take money from AIPAC, which they have forever, what you're saying is Israel is a monster country and this is dirty. It's a dirty country and this is dirty money. And that gives permission to a lot of people who are actually anti-Semitic. But if a Democratic senator won't take their money, this must be a dirty country.
Let's also remember as well that you got a lot of people that felt like, they're taking this position that Trump was wrong to go after Iran or what have you. But practically every president.
Unfucking believable. It is unbelievably embarrassing that he's literally butthurt that they don't want to take lobbying money from a foreign country, by the way. Why is AIPAC even allowed to spend in our elections? They're literally a fucking lobby on behalf of a foreign government. That's number one. But I love how he tries to make... first of all, not taking lobbying money from anyone is a good thing. We should not have money in politics. The fact that our politics are as corrupt as they are is the reason why we're in the situation we're in today. We can argue all day and night about all the shit that has contributed to America being in the fucking late-stage capitalist hellscape that it is today. And there are many factors, but one thing that is inarguable is that today in the year of our Lord 2026, one of the main reasons why we can't get out of the fucking mess that we're in is because of money in politics. So taking money from large corporations, oil companies, big pharma, crypto, AI, big ag is already bad and already contributing and keeping us in the decline that we're in. But taking money from a lobbying organization on behalf of a foreign government is actually even worse. And this clown is literally crying about it. What do you mean you're not going to take lobbying money from a country committing genocide anymore? But we always did, Daddy. And then he tries to victimize them. So Israel, which is a country committing genocide against the Palestinian people and currently annexing the occupied West Bank and carrying out pogroms on the Palestinians there, and also annexing southern Lebanon right now, displacing 1 million people and have already killed 1,000, and also being a huge contributing factor as to why we decided we were going to start a war with Iran. No. They're the victim. Why don't you want to take the lobbying money from the country committing genocide? What do you hate Jews? This is a new one though. Oh, you don't want to take our lobbying money on behalf of our genocide and our wars of aggression? Check out this anti-Semite. No, you know what's anti-Semitic? Tying the Jewish identity to violence. Because that is exactly what you're doing. You're literally saying that this violent apartheid ethno-supremacist state that is carrying out a genocide and is committing violence against all of these people, including but not limited to the Palestinian people, the Lebanese people, and the Iranian people, that by people not wanting to take money from that country or support their genocide, that means that they're anti-Semitic, that means that they hate Jewish people. So it sounds like you're tying the Jewish identity to that type of violence, which to me seems a little bit anti-Semitic, no? He literally chides her for not taking AIPAC money, and she clarifies because she's also a servant of Israel. She's like, no. I did not take AIPAC money because of their genocide in Gaza. Don't worry, I support genocide just like you, Bill. No, I stopped taking it because of the insurrection. She explains.
I mean, long before October 7th, I stopped taking AIPAC money, not because of Israel or any other issue like that, but because they were giving money to people who had been participating in January 6th. And for me,
who was giving money?
AIPAC, they give money to both Democrats and Republicans, and people who had been involved in inciting January 6th, they were giving money to. And as someone who barricaded herself in her office on January 6th, I didn't agree with that. And so back in 2022, that's when I had that kind of conversation. So long before the last couple of years.
Look at how mad he is.
Convenient for you.
It's not convenient. When you barricade yourself in your office,
I know, but it's not really.
It's pretty real.
I can respect that. I certainly respect that. I don't disagree. What I'm saying, the part that I disagree with is that if somebody has been supporting you, not you specifically, but if somebody has been supporting you religiously and you disagree with one thing that they do, all of a sudden you disassociate yourself from them, that's okay?
I think if it's...
You guys, unfortunately, the Overton window in this country has moved so far to the right that these three neocons are considered Democrats. And they're so right-wing that they're making Alyssa Slotkin seem reasonable here. He's like, what? You're just gonna stop taking money from someone because they disagree with you on one little issue like democracy or genocide? The fuck is wrong with you, Stephen A. Smith? I do just love, though, how butthurt Bill Maher is. She's like, yeah, I stopped taking money from them because of the whole insurrection thing. And he's like, convenient for you. Like, he gets so fucking butthurt. It's also true that AIPAC is an incredibly right-wing organization. So even though they have supported both Democrats and Republicans, they meddle in Democratic primaries all the time. all the time. They are meddling in primaries, which the Democratic Party should ostensibly have a problem with, but they don't seem to mind. Hakeem Jeffries doesn't mind. Chuckles doesn't mind. None of them seem to mind that they meddle in Democratic primaries and that they are incredibly right-wing. They're bankrolled. AIPAC is bankrolled by right-wingers, by Republican donors. And they give a lot of money to Republicans, including to all the insurrectionists. But he doesn't have a problem with that. All the liberals don't seem to have a problem with that. Part of the problem is, too, is that Stephen A. Smith and Boomer Maher are so rich that they've just lost touch with reality. And you're never going to see any pushback on this, because anytime Boomer Maher has made the mistake of having somebody on who actually knows what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to Palestine and Israel, he never invites them on again. Let's never forget about the time that he had his clock cleaned by Glenn Greenwald when he was on his show talking about Palestine and the Middle East in general. And in a surprise to no one, he never invited him back on again. Boomer Maher will never invite anybody on that actually challenges him. And he will never invite anybody to his left on. Stephen A. Smith was really sitting on here crying about how Zohran Mamdani was a communist. And why didn't they just elect the experienced sex pest Andrew Cuomo?
To me, what the Democrats are not doing with this is leading. The energy in their parties with the young people who learn everything about Israel on TikTok. They don't know shit. And their leaders are not standing up and saying, kids, you don't know what's going on here. Every war Israel has fought is a war of defense. Right. Every war, they were attacked first. Well, and
I love Stephen A. Smith in the background pretending like he knows what the fuck he's talking about. Yeah. See what I mean? What an out-of-touch fucking boomer ass he is? The kids get their information from tic-tac-toe. One of the things I love about Boomer Maher is that he's so fucking smug while being wrong. Like, I'm so sorry, Boo. You don't get to have that level of smugness when you're that embarrassingly wrong and out of touch. It is actually incredible how little this boomer knows about politics, considering he does a political commentary show. Like, you can tell that his producers just like write a bunch of shit on cue cards for him to read off. It's like The View. Like, they don't know anything, but they speak confidently as though they do. You don't know shit about shit, and you certainly don't know anything about Israel or Palestine. But he has the nerve to make fun of young people. Oh, they get their information off of TikTok. Israel is always just defending themselves. Bitch, what do you know? You get your foreign policy education from Bret Stephens and Morning Blow. Because the thing is that Boomer Maher doesn't get nearly enough smoke. Okay? Not only does he know literally nothing about Israel, Palestine, the history of the conflict, the genocide, or Islam for that matter, he thinks that he knows everything and then has the fucking nerve to talk down to young people and tell the youths that they don't know nothing about the Middle East policy, unlike me, the smart, educated, rich boomer who won't talk to anybody that disagrees with me on this. You need to wrap it up, old man. And she's really sitting there nodding along with him as he's insulting young people, as he's insulting voters. She's like, they don't really know anything. Which therein lies, of course, another problem with the Democratic Party is how much they hate their own voters, okay? The Democrats hate their base. They hate their own voters. They have contempt for their own voters. Why are you nodding your head? The dismissiveness that they have for young people, which is a lot, like the majority of young people generally, I know last election was different, but they've all since left Trump and MAGA. But generally, the majority of young people vote for Democrats, okay? That is a big constituency for the party. And man, the fucking disrespect they have for them, the contempt they have for them. The youths don't know anything about Middle East policy, unlike us. I do declare we know. This is who they actually listen to. This is who politicians actually listen to. Elite, rich, old people in the party. That's who they listen to. Corporations in the Israeli lobby, of course. But like, when we're talking about donors in the Democratic Party and who the politicians are actually listening to, it is these elite, incredibly out of touch, rich old farts. And it shows. But again, you're not going to see anybody come on his show to school his ass on the issue, because anytime someone does, he ensures never to invite them back. At one point on the panel, Stephen A. Smith is like, stay tuned. Like, he thinks he's going to run for president, and it's amazing. I just also can't get over how Boomer Maher is cheering on the Iran war. He's like, no, I agree with you, Trump. I agree with you on the Iran war. He actually tries to rewrite history about the Iraq war and the whole WMD routine and says that, oh no, we were trying to nation build. Like, it's so embarrassing how out front he is on defending this disastrous war and acting like, here's the other thing too. is that it's like, even if you are a radical Zionist neocon who wants to have this war in Iran, if you really understand what a disaster Trump is and what an idiot he is, why would you trust him leading the charge? Why would you trust Trump at the helm of this? But you're a liberal Democrat. Okay. Problem is that these are the people that the party actually listens to. They literally spent like a solid 4 minutes just trashing Mamdani. They're like, oh my gosh, it's like anytime they find someone somewhat remotely popular on the Democratic side, they're like, oh wait, how can we ruin it? How can we ruin it? The chasm between the Democratic Party and the elites that run it in the actual voting base just keeps getting wider and wider and wider. That is why you see people like this, the ones that actually really control and represent the party at the highest levels, sitting around trashing Zohran Mamdani, trashing young people while defending AIPAC in war with Iran. Does that not just about sum that shit up? All while, of course, trying to cancel Hassan Piker. Everybody should understand and also remember that this is actually what the Democratic elites at the highest level care about, and that they are perfectly willing to lose in order to keep progressives away. I said that right after the last election. Kamala Harris was willing to lose in order to protect the Israeli regime's genocide. And they have not learned shit because it is in their financial interest not to learn anything. These people would rather continue to lose, including to fascists like J.D. Vance and to Donald Trump, and they would rather cheer Donald Trump starting a war with Iran than they would for a progressive to win. That was the case in the 2024 election, and it continues to be the case here. And they prove it every single day. Every single day. They prove it when they defend the war on Iran, and they're fine with Trump doing it. They prove it as they continue to smear and attack progressives like Hassan Piker and like Zohran Mamdani, because, again, the things that really matter to these people, Israel, protecting the corporations and the insurance companies, their wealthy donors, and the status quo. So they're not interested in abolishing ICE. They're not interested in decoupling and defunding the Israeli regime. They are not interested in Medicare for all. And if people talk about that, like Hassan Piker, they would like to crush him. They would like to alienate and marginalize him. Because again, they would rather lose to fascists. They would rather see somebody like J.D. Vance become president than they would see a progressive who's actually going to try to make any of those things happen. And that's why you constantly see them talk about how they need to have a conversation without actually doing anything. Because just like in my last video where I talked about Chris Murphy saying that they needed to have a conversation about taking on Republicans, something that should have already fucking happened and they should already be taking on the Republicans. Here's her.
A lot of the things we thought were laws, we thought were real rules, were actually just kind of traditions, right? We had presidents who they would feel ashamed if they got involved in business dealings in the middle of their administration. And there just wasn't real law there. So I think no matter what, whether you're Democrat or Republican, we're going to have to take a hard look at how some of those traditions that were based on good behavior actually need to become law with real teeth.
Take a hard look. They really love that. They love it. Democrats love to take a hard look. They love to have the conversation. The time to take a hard look at the fact that we don't have laws that can restrain a criminal president was 5 fucking years ago. Are we all just gonna forget and pretend that Joe Biden wasn't president and had a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate? The time to have that conversation was in Trump's first term. But this is what they always do, you guys, and you need to learn to spot the pattern. They always say they're gonna have a conversation. They're gonna take a hard look. They're gonna discuss it. They really hope things are gonna change. And then they don't do anything. Really? You're just now realizing that Trump is a fucking criminal that just does whatever the fuck he wants, and that a lot of those things that should have guardrails around them that aren't laws? Didn't we have this conversation during the first term when we all realized that he wasn't going to release his tax returns and that wasn't a law, it was just a tradition? Shouldn't you guys have taken a hard look at it then? Shouldn't we have already had that conversation then? Shouldn't the fucking laws have already been passed after his first term when Joe Biden took over and we had a Democratic House and Senate? Shouldn't that have been the time to Trump-proof the joint? But these fucking feckless losers want to not do shit about shit, and then when they're out of power go, you know what? we need to take a hard look. I just love that even when they're out of power, after they already had an opportunity to pass laws around this and Trump-proof the criminal shit that he did for the next president that comes in. I just love that not only did they not do that during Biden's term, but then she's not even promising anything concrete. Like, they're not even promising anything concrete to fix it going forward. They're not even like, when we take back power, you guys, we're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to do this. No, not even a promise. It's, we're going to have a conversation about fighting the Republicans. We're going to take a hard look. Oh, but I'm not done yet. There was another part that was so unhinged of Boomer Maher. Not only does he say the quiet part out loud as he's warmongering and warmongering and warmongering, defending this war in Iran. He goes, yeah, but Israel's our greatest ally. What about them? They're closer to us than NATO.
Including the ally that is our most important ally in the world, and that is Israel. It's not NATO.
If you had any doubt throughout this entire video that Boomer Maher is a Zionist, lunatic, racist, extremist, radical, Islamophobic bigot, he makes this crazy, bizarre comment about like, oh, well, we don't really know what Israel has up his sleeve. Why are you saying that like it's a positive thing that Israel keeps secrets from us? You just got done licking their ass about what great allies they are to us, but then you say it in this kind of cutesy way that there's shit that they don't tell us, that they don't share with us. And then he brags about their terrorist pager attack that killed a ton of civilians, including multiple children, but also maimed and disfigured a bunch of those innocent civilians.
Well, Israel has a way of surprising you. We're stuff they're doing behind the scenes.
Why are you laughing?
If any pages blow up.
In the meantime, though,
the way he laughs about it is so demented. If you guys haven't seen it, Rania Khalek from Breakthrough News did an incredibly powerful documentary talking about the victims in Lebanon who got maimed and disfigured and killed from that terrorist pager attack that the Israeli regime did. You should absolutely go watch that documentary she did, and then remember the way that Boomer Maher laughed about it. Totally deranged. But then, of course, if you have watched Boomer Maher or any of his clips for any amount of time, you know that he is a deranged, demented Zionist that will only invite other deranged and demented Zionists on to lie constantly about the Israeli regime and do propaganda for them, like Paul Begala, who we had on last week, to say this. The other thing that's just so crazy to listen to them talk about is they think it's 2002 and that we're not a late-stage capitalist crumbling empire. Like, what gives you the right? What do you clowns think give you the right to tell other countries who their governments can be? This country is a clown show with a criminal president that can't get our own shit together, but we think we have the right to tell other countries how they should govern and who their leaders should be. Our country's run by the axis of Epstein. Our president and our vice president wear makeup. And the excuses that they use are so insane. Like, really pretending to do the we care about democracy routine. Oh, we really care about the people of Cuba, and that's why we're putting an oil blockade on them. We just really care about the people of Iran and the freedom and the women's rights. Bitch, you can't even feed your own people here in the United States, and we're supposed to believe you give a fuck about Iran? Women in this country don't even have bodily autonomy anymore, and you want us to believe you care about women's rights in Iran? People are unhoused here. People can't afford food here. People can't afford health care here. And you want us to think, with the low standard of living that we now have here in the United States, that you're concerned about the well-being of the people in other countries, but you can't even deal with the problems that we have here? Be fucking for real.